Assessing Derek Milton's documentary Getting a Grammy based on its mode, content, and style will allow for a deep understanding of the film and its context and the greater documentary landscape to be drawn. So, firstly, when discussing the mode of the film, Nichols' modes of documentary filmmaking are an appropriate place to start. For the case of Getting a Grammy, throughout the table it most closely aligns with the performative mode. Going through the table and comparing it to the features of the documentary, the idiosyncratic nature of the film best aligns with the performative documentary mode. For example, the film itself is completely portrayed from the perspective of the documentary maker Derek Milton, and knowledge is gained from his own direct experiences trying to fulfill his goal, which when referring to the table are features of a performative documentary. Further, the strongly personal perspective Milton offers through his voiceover further depicts this as a performative documentary. However, as Stella Brazzi says, the table is overly simplistic in its analysis of the documentary genre, and although it does provide a good base for understanding documentary filmmaking, it should only be used as just that, in my opinion, a baseline understanding. Especially with a work as unique as Getting a Grammy, boiling it down to a label seems counterproductive almost, which is why it's key to use this mode simply to display typical convention of such documentary films before further analyzing content and style to gain a deeper understanding of the documentary itself. So, Brazzi does look into this idea of pure documentary, which Getting a Grammy is anything but. In the documentary, Milton tells the story of how he lies to his friends and tells them he won a Grammy due to his involvement with Beyoncé's Homecoming. However, he never actually was given a physical Grammy, as it's only given to major contributors. And when all his friends want to see it, he goes to elaborate lengths to create a fake Grammy for his fake Grammy party he's now pressured into throwing. The content itself is clearly tongue-in-cheek, similar to that seen in a mockumentary. It's not so much focused on showing the journey, but instead highlighting the absurdity of it for humorous effect. Milton's deadpan delivery as the situation escalates is key to the tone of the film, with his narration often contradicting what's shown on screen, as shown on this slide. So, how does this content conflict with the definition of what a pure documentary should be? Well, Brazzi defines this idea of the pure documentary throughout history of factual screen, in which the relationship between the image and the real is straightforward. But for the content in Getting a Grammy, the authenticity of what we are seeing is constantly put into question due to its ironic nature. This shows its left field nature as a documentary, which is further reinforced by the style it uses. This being a more homemade feel to it, it's almost as if Milton created this in iMovie. Still images are used throughout, with Milton's voice narrating over it, further showing this to the audience. Take this shot for example. Milton, rather than changing his deadpan delivery, uses the style, visuals, and slow movement tools and zooms to get the point across that he feels unhappy with what this person is saying. This isn't to say Milton put no effort into the documentary and visual style. This amateurish style was completely intentional. A comparison that can be made with this documentary is that of a YouTube video, with it possessing the same homemade qualities. And using this format allows Milton to tap into a new form of authenticity not commonly seen in documentary making, which more closely aligns with the tongue-in-cheek approach he was shooting for. Generally, documentaries have always seek for authenticity above all else. However, with this style, Milton achieves this authenticity by using a somewhat thrown-together style, which allows it to feel more personal and allows the audience to more closely connect with him as the protagonist of the story. It does not rely on the world of well-respected sources or reliable information. This is a performative piece where he is the protagonist. And so this is where the style and content connect, as the loosely thrown together plot of the documentary feels in tone with the amateurish style. Take this scene for example. In this back and forth with a shop attendant over the phone, where he is attempting to get a fake Grammy plaque, still images are used for the back and forth before using a stock image of two men shaking hands when he struck a deal, and then another stock image of a Grammy. Generally, this visual aesthetic, or lack thereof, would be frowned upon in a documentary. However, it works in this context to display the performative nature. It shows that rather than setting up a complex mise-en-scène and uncovering important truths, the whole documentary is just played for laughs. This is how the content, mode, and style in the film align, in the name of comedy. It isn't informative. It is centered around the narrator's experiences completely, and it is no means a pure documentary. As Bruzzy states, for so long the goal of documentarists was to attain perfect authenticity. It is clear throughout the documentary Milton never sought to achieve this. That wasn't his intention of telling the story, and that's seen through the mode, style, and content of the documentary.